Hello, Diagnosed Narcissist here, going to share more of my perceptions about the dumb, stupid, idiotic world that we live in. Keep in mind, I am not a licensed professional, so all of these things are just how I, you know, interpret and whatnot. But with all that being said, I've been thinking about loneliness lately and how I've always had, I guess, a sort of like contradictory experience with it. I mean, I don't really know if I feel lonely because to me it's kind of been, buried under the same meaning in terms of like being empty in a sense that like, I'm never really there. So I kind of just think, I don't know, do I get lonely or am I just like idealizing a fantasy that I would like to, you know, have in a way for anyone else to make me feel like I'm the greatest thing on earth or something like that. Because ideally, I'm not going to cap with you. That's exactly what I would want. And I don't know, like, I want to have good relationships with people, let's say. I want to have, decent friends, whatever, all this kind of stuff. I cherish the girlfriend that I have, but there's a part of me that I will be honest about. I don't know if I will ever be in the relationship, so to speak, like whether we're friends, whatever, anything like that. I don't know if I will ever truly be there in the center of it. Like, I'm glad I don't really have like tendencies to like isolate or anything like that. At the very least, not as bad as like, some other people with, let's say, certain conditions. I don't know, like avoidant personality. I don't know too much about that in detail, but whatever. Um, I guess I kind of think about as to whether or not you can truly trust somebody because I don't know if most people like think about this. They don't seem to because you can run into a lot of people that say, "Oh, you should have a support network," and I guess they don't really understand the concept of like trust issues, I guess is what they would call it. I don't necessarily see it as trust issues, but perhaps maybe someone else would, label it that way. Because, kind of like what I said, I don't really isolate myself completely from like other people per se. Maybe like just about anyone else, I might feel, let's say, more comfortable as a naturally introverted person to, I guess, just like be by myself. So I don't really necessarily have to worry about somebody. But, it's easier in the sense that, like, okay, if I hypothetically am with somebody, as long as I know that, like, okay, they're doing all the right things for me, they're praising me, they're doing this, all the kind of things that, like, I consider positive, like, I have this, like, perception and, like, inclination that, like, I sort of expect somebody to just, work things out in however way that, like, I want them to, even in the sense that they should be able to like read my mind in a way, like, let's say, because the way I see it, as long as I know that I'm constantly getting like positive feedback, I don't ever have to worry about anything, I guess, which I know is like super unrealistic. So I am, hypothetically going out of my way to like, not run away from conflict, at least like not so easily. I mean, I don't even really run away from conflict because like I can easily be like argumentative, let's say, maybe even too argumentative. That's like more than necessary. But yeah, I don't know how people like are naturally just like trusting of like others, let's say, and they don't really like worry about anything because there's always a part of me that's like, okay, even though I have people that I guess I wouldn't necessarily think are going out of their way to like, I don't know, ruin me or like anything like that. I know I always have a voice at the back of my mind saying that like you can never really know somebody. Like no matter what they show you, even if you have like a consistency to rely on in terms of like, them mostly being there for you, hypothetically willing to communicate because I know those are the people you're supposed to have in your life, ones that are willing to talk things out, blah blah blah, things like that. But that's one thing though. It's what they show on the outside. I would never really know what somebody, thinks to themselves like in their own mind while they're presenting the things that like they're saying to me. And yes, if there's a pattern of like consistency, there's probably like no reason to doubt that. But because I know I'm not able to like read minds, I wish I could read minds. There will always be a part of me like low key saying that like I'm not going to be surprised if anybody goes out of their way to like hypothetically backstab me. Like, no matter how good of a person they are to me, and that's why I stay with them, because yes, like what I said, there's been good consistency for the most part. Like, if they were to betray me, I'm sure, yeah, I would like feel hurt. But then that voice in the back of my mind would always confirm that, like, oh, see, yeah, you can never really like know anybody. Which is why I kind of get annoyed when other people complain about like being betrayed. Like, I know, like, within a cognitive empathy sort of like position, I, yeah, obviously I would know why somebody would be upset over like being betrayed. But I guess when they're like too emotional about it, to like the point where it's like, I kind of think to myself, why didn't you have the voice at the back of your head saying that, like, oh, you're really this surprised? Like, maybe it's unexpected, and I'm putting a different definition there, despite the fact that maybe you can say unexpected and, surprise are synonyms to like each other. Sure, like, you can think it's unexpected, but why would you ever think it's like outside the realm of like possibility that like even the closest person in your life can like drop you at an instant? Because I entertain the idea that even if somebody is consistently someone to trust on the outside, you will never know anything about like their interpersonal world towards you. So when I see people like that, like, I mean, it's weird because I get in this position where it's like, okay, I understand you're upset, but I mean, just like, you're a freaking idiot. Like, oh, you're surprised that your boyfriend is capable of cheating on you. You're surprised that your girlfriend is capable of cheating on you. Whatever, this and this and that. Because, like, in human relationships, and this is what I genuinely think, we're all just placing an illusion on each other that, like, oh, you know, we play for the winning team, quote unquote, because everybody has their groups, everybody has their partners, everybody has their, this and that. But I don't understand how people, in a sense, I guess, feel like they're connected. I feel connected to people that I guess I'm connected to by default if I'm constantly hanging out with them or like whatever, or like things like that. Or, we talk more on a daily basis. I don't even talk to a lot of people on a daily basis except like my girlfriend, honestly. But like let's say if like we're friends, we talk like occasionally or like something, then like, yeah, I'm sure I can say that I trust you. Perhaps you would also say the same thing. I don't know. But it's like, it's all just like, I guess, like the wirings of like human nature for people to assimilate and still be within like their tribal instincts to like, ensure like the best like survival, I guess. And then I kind of think to myself, oh, it's all still pointless because we're just going to head down to the path that like we die. So why do we think we're a big deal in terms of like all our relationships, this and this and that? I think human nature is like a contradictory like existence. I mean, life is a contradictory existence, like, in and of itself. So bada bing nihilism, life is meaningless. But yeah, I don't know. Just some things that I've been thinking about. I can perhaps see why a lot of people, don't want to experience loneliness, but like, ironically for me, it's also kind of the only thing that reminds me of like my greatest security, perhaps. Like, I know there's a quote. I don't actually remember who said it, but like, it goes something along the lines of like, oh, you don't want to be lonely, or like, no, like, it goes something like this, like, everybody needs alone time, but nobody wants to feel lonely. Like, distinguishing a difference. And like, I see the so-called wisdom in that, like, theoretically, I guess, but I don't think it's something that I like, truly, like, I guess, actually experience, like, for myself, because feeling so disconnected for pretty much like majority of my life, disconnected and like detached, like, being alone and loneliness essentially, like, in a way, mean the same thing to me. Because at some point when I see that, like, oh, there's actually nothing in terms of, you know being alone and like the loneliness, there's like nothing to actually react to. So then I just go back to like, being hollow after like I remove these feelings that don't even like legitimately feel real. So in a way, I think that's why it kind of confuses me, and it doesn't really like make me like buckle down hypothetically when like throughout my life people hypothetically might have said things like, "Oh, you're so narcissistic, you're so selfish, you're so this." And I'm like thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't I be? like at the same time, I understand that like they're upset because in like my eyes they're losing, they're not getting their way, I'm getting my way. So in a way it reminds me of like, yes, the security that like, I have, because I've been talking about how you can never really know what somebody has in here compared to like what they're showing like, externally towards you. I only know for sure how I feel. So I know like legitimately how I feel, like good or bad. So it's like I keep thinking to myself, only I know whether or not I'm worthy of, all this greatness or all these things that are like terrible. So it makes it easy to like, neglect outside sort of like influence, because I think the more that I hear in a way that I only care about myself, it only reinforces to me that, oh, I will only truly ever have myself. And I guess, yeah, that's where it like presents narcissistically to a lot of people. Yeah.